Hey guys, welcome to Dan Reviews It, and this is a standalone movie review for A Quiet Place. Man, this movie has lit up the box office. Maybe not even every year, but every year or two, there is a movie like this. Last year, I would say it was Get Out, that just comes from out of nowhere, a horror thriller type movie, and just gets everybody talking. Cloverfield did it a few years ago, and so this year it's A Quiet Place. This movie made about $50 million on its opening weekend, and another 35 in its second weekend. I mean, it is how much was it made for? Here you go, 17 million. It was made for. So, that's why these studios love horror movies. They crank them out all the time. Unfortunately, they don't usually get this kind of result. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about A Quiet Place. This is directed and starring John Krasinski. Directed by, co-written by, I should say, too. It's 3 writers, and he's one of them. And starring John Krasinski. We know him best as Jim from The Office, but he is really, really trying to showcase his dramatic chops lately. He was in the Benghazi movie. I forget the exact name of it, 13 something. But he has always been trying to separate himself from the Jim character. Not that he doesn't love The Office. In interviews he always talks about The Office memories very fondly. But, he doesn't want to be typecasted. And good for him, because, man, this movie, holy God. His real-life wife, Emily Blunt, plays his wife in the film, so they worked together. And there's 2 kids, Noah Jupe, who we've seen most recently in Wonder as Jack Will, the best friend. But we've seen him in other things as well. Maybe not, because Suburbicon is the other big thing he's done, and not a lot of people saw that. So maybe we haven't seen him. I saw him. You perhaps not. But the girl who, what is her name? Millicent Simmons, who I don't know. She was in one film last year called Wanderlust. I didn't see it, but she plays the daughter in this. And they are the only characters in the movie. There is another son at the very beginning of the movie, and then towards the end of the movie there's one other character, but that's it. It's this family and some creatures, and that's it. So let's start there. The simplicity of the movie is just this one family. These creatures hunt by sound. So it's a quiet place because they need silence. There is so little audio in this movie. I mean, there's audio because there's some music that swells. Although not every scene, it's not your typical movie where every scene there's a score underneath. No, not for this. This is, silence is kind of the name of the game here. There's a lot of scenes where it is just atmospheric silence. Or rustling or whatever, so we can sort of hear the way they hear. If something, if a light bulb breaks, or if the floorboard squeaks, we hear it the way they hear it. So I loved that a lot of this movie did not have score underneath it. So we don't know exactly who the creatures are. Or what happened. It's not really revealed. And now that I'm thinking about it, there is one other person in the movie about halfway through, but I'm not going to talk about him. It's a little bit of a spoiler. So, but anyway, it's obviously focusing on the family and the creatures. So where do these creatures come from? What happened? We don't really know, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't have to get massive exposition before some sort of tragedy. We know it's a few years in the future. It does say the year on a board at some point. I'll be honest, I can't remember what it was. It might have been 2026 or something, but I don't remember. But anyway, it's a few years in the future, but not that far. So this family has to go and find a way to live with silence. They have a lot of things in place for strategies. For example, the floorboards. I was talking about squeaking floorboards. There really aren't any squeaking floorboards, are there? Because there are little paint swatches on the floorboards and on the steps, so you know exactly where to step to not make a sound. There is okay, so Emily Blunt's character. It's pretty early on in the movie, so I'm not going to say it's a spoiler, but she gets pregnant, and I was thinking, well, how are they going to do this? First of all, she's going to have a silent birth. They find a way around that. It's brilliant in its execution, but the film is even more brilliant in its execution in storytelling. It's what I mean. The original execution. I mean, it's brilliant in the execution of strategies that this family has. But the whole film is just, it's so amazing to see. I was riveted from the word go. And, a lot of horror movies, it's sort of like, well, are you a jump scare horror movie, or, what exactly are you? This is, I would say, more of a thriller than a horror. It certainly has horror elements, but I sort of think there's a fine line between thriller and horror, and a lot of movies are both. The original Alien is certainly both. Really, I mean, kind of the whole Alien franchise is sort of, horror, thriller sort of thing, but I think of more horror as anything that's like a super slasher, like, Friday the 13th is a horror for sure, but, whereas 10 Cloverfield Lane, let's say, to bring back the Cloverfield series, that is definitely more of a thriller than a horror. And I think this sort of walks that line, because there are a few jump scares, there's no doubt about that. And, the creatures are very horror-ish. They're designed kind of cool, as an aside. I like the way that their ears are designed, because obviously that's how they get their power. They have no sight; they are hearing only. So that's it was kind of a cool design. But yeah, so it's definitely more of a thriller. So if you're real squeamish about horror movies, I think you could still tackle this and be okay, as long as you are okay with movies like 10 Cloverfield Lane, or I don't know, like Get Out is definitely horror. But I think that's manageable as well, because there's not jump scares really in Get Out either. But so let's talk about one of the key things of this movie that I didn't realize until I was doing my research. But the girl, this girl, Millicent Simmons, she is deaf in real life. Her character is deaf in the movie, and so obviously communicates with sign language only, which sort of a blessing and a curse, because it's easy for her to be silent. She lives in silence, but that means she also can't hear what is going on around her, if there are any of the creatures around, or she can sort of sense them a little bit, but she lives in silence. So it's both a blessing and a curse for this sort of atmosphere that they have to live in. And so it turns out she's deaf in real life, which is awesome. Because first of all, I think it's so cool that people that are hard of hearing can get work like this. It's awesome. But I think it's so cool that Krasinski wanted to be authentic and wanted to direct this girl. I think a lot of people would have taken an easier route and said, well, she could be deaf for the movie, but no, let's get an actor that can hear, that I can direct a little bit easier, because I'm sure it is, easier to direct that way. But Krasinski said, no, I want an authentically real deaf person for the role, and kudos to him. Like, that is so cool. I mean, it doesn't affect my grade at all. It's still a super positive grade regardless. But just sort of on the the making of front, I think he gets mad points for that. Just because. So there's a lot of great things to talk about here, but a lot of them are spoiler heavy, so I don't want to. But everybody does a really good job here. Noah Jupe, he's going to be a good little actor. He was good in Suburbicon. He's great in Wonder. And I spent like a half hour in this movie trying to think of where I know him from, because his hair is a different color and a different style. So I had to sort of focus on his face. I've seen Wonder like 2.5 times, and Suburban I saw maybe 3 months ago. So, it's all kind of fresh in my mind. So finally I was like, oh my God, that's Jack Will from Wonder. So, he does a really good job here. The girl does a good job. Hopefully, we can have other parts for her. I mean, look at Marlee Matlin, who won an Oscar for her movie Children of the Lesser God, and she's gotten roles since then. She had her own series, and she guested on Seinfeld, and so certainly there's work for people in the deaf community on TV and movies. So I'd love to see her again because she does a great job here as well. And John Krasinski, man, kudos on the acting front, certainly, because Jim is like distant memory at this point. We love The Office, of course, everyone does. The beard helps differentiate him for sure, but he just does a great job here, and his directing, I mean, it's great. It is a lot like Jordan Peele in Get Out. Like, I don't want to keep making the comparison, but it's hard not to when, that was also a horror movie that came out of nowhere, directed by a TV star. I mean, we know Jordan Peele from sketch comedy, and then he makes Get Out. So, kudos to John Krasinski for following in that path as well. And, Emily Blunt, I always like Emily Blunt. She sometimes is in a lesser than movie, but most of the time she's in great movies, from first time I ever saw her, I believe, was Devil Wears Prada, but, Edge of Tomorrow and Into the Woods and Sunshine Cleaning, and, she always, brings it, whether it's Sicario, whether it's a good movie or not, but usually she does pick good projects, and husband and wife teams on screen can sometimes be a little bit not great, but here it definitely works. They're great together, and her scenes, again, I'm not going to give spoilers, but like when she's having her baby, it's like, it's insane, how she acts. She's such a good actress. So anyway, let's wrap it up. This is a great movie. You should see it. And luckily, I was in a theater where people were respectful of the tone of the movie. I was so afraid, especially the theater I go to, when I saw Jumanji there, the manager had to come in and start screaming at people for disrupting the film. The theater I went to is sort of known for having more of a raucous crowd. So it was great that people were being respectful of the tone of the film. Nobody was talking in this movie. Nobody, well, the one gal, like, diagonal from me, she was on her phone just a stitch, but I mean, at least it wasn't noise. So I was very glad that people were respectful, because I was afraid, like, I had heard, I don't know if it was online or people on my Facebook feed or something, but I had heard stories of people that, like, just the movie was ruined for them because people were talking, and some people could hear the movie in the theater the next auditorium, because there are a lot of very quiet moments in this movie, so I was afraid of that, and none of that happened. Like, I had the optimum theater experience for this. So if you go see it, I hope your experience is the same. I hope you get a nice, respectful, quiet crowd, because this movie deserves it. Quiet Place gets an A. Yeah, go see it. It's definitely, so far, one of the best of the year. All right, well, that's going to do it for me. We have some new reviews up. Obviously, I'm going through the Roseanne seasons, and that has been a big boon for my channel, but I'm not forgetting my movie roots. There is a lot of stuff going on there. I've been putting up some DVD reviews lately. There is a current DVD review for The Greatest Showman, Molly's Game, All the Money in the World, Proud Mary, and a couple others. That's all in one, 16, 17-minute video, so you can check that out. And yeah, of course, check out all the Roseanne reviews if you're into that, because that has been going very well for my channel. And more movie reviews coming soon, but I definitely had to get A Quiet Place one up there. I did see it a few days ago, but I wanted to ruminate on it. It's one where you do want to kind of think about it. But man, it just gets better and better upon reflection. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And the Facebook group too, that's hopping over on Facebook. Dan Reviews It is the name of it. Simple. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye.